There is a version of a Kellogg's cereal box sold in London and a version sold in Chicago. Same brand, same name, same cartoon character on the front. Different ingredients inside. There is a bag of Doritos sold in Berlin and a bag sold in Dallas. Same company, same flavor, different chemicals. There is a McDonald's in Paris and a McDonald's in Phoenix serving the same menu items made from different formulations. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's a business decision. American food companies reformulate their products for European markets because European law won't allow them to sell the American version. The exact same corporation, making the exact same product, uses safer ingredients when the law requires it, and cheaper ingredients when the law doesn't. And the law only requires it outside America. Right now, a long list of chemicals, hormones, and processing methods that are perfectly legal in American food are banned across the European Union, the United Kingdom, Japan, and dozens of other countries. Not restricted, not labeled, banned. And most Americans have no idea because nobody is required to tell them. This is why the rest of the world looks at American food and quietly decides not to import it. Let's start with the one that shocks people most because it isn't about a chemical at all. It's about chicken. In the United States, poultry processors routinely rinse chicken carcasses in chlorine-based solutions after slaughter to kill bacteria like Salmonella and Campylobacter. This has been standard practice for decades. It's cheap, it's fast, and it works. The European Union banned this practice in 1997. Not just for American chicken, for all chicken. It's a blanket prohibition on poultry treated with antimicrobial chemical washes. Now here's the part that matters, and I want to be precise about it, because the honest version of the story is more damning than the exaggerated one. The EU's objection is not that chlorine-washed chicken will poison you. Researchers at the University of Edinburgh's Roslin Institute have noted that the meat itself isn't believed to pose a risk to consumers. The chlorine isn't the problem. The problem is what the chlorine is covering up. European regulators argue that a chemical wash at the end of the process allows producers to be careless at every stage before it. If you can sterilize the bird at the finish line, you don't need clean facilities, humane stocking density, or rigorous hygiene standards throughout the supply chain. The wash becomes a shortcut that lets an entire industry lower its standards everywhere else. Europe decided it would rather regulate the whole process than disinfect the end of it. America decided it would rather disinfect the end of it. Both are choices. Only one of them produces a product the other won't accept. Now, if this is the kind of thing you were never told and would like to keep hearing, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. And drop a comment telling me whether you knew any of this before today. That engagement is genuinely how this channel survives. Let's keep going. Then there's the beef. In the United States, cattle are commonly treated with growth hormones to increase weight gain and improve feed efficiency. Substances including zeranol, trenbolone acetate, and melangestrol acetate are used across the American beef industry. The European Union banned growth hormones in beef and dairy production in 1989. That is not a recent decision. That is 37 years ago. The European Commission's Scientific Committee reviewed the evidence and concluded that the potential risks to human health, including possible links to hormone-sensitive cancers, outweighed the agricultural benefit. Was the science settled? No, it wasn't then, and there's still dispute now. The United States has argued for decades at the World Trade Organization that the ban is unscientific and protectionist. That argument has some merit. Europe protecting its own farmers is a real motive alongside the health concern. But here's what isn't in dispute. The ban applies to both domestic and imported meat, which effectively blocks most American beef from the European market entirely. An entire continent looked at how America raises cattle and said, "No thank you," and has held that position through nearly 4 decades of trade pressure, presidential administrations, and tariff threats. Dairy is the same story. American dairy operations are permitted to use recombinant bovine growth hormone, known as RBGH or RBST, a synthetic hormone injected into cows to boost milk production. The FDA approved it in 1993. The European Union banned it, citing both potential human health concerns and documented animal welfare effects, including significantly higher rates of udder infections in treated cows. Many American dairy brands now voluntarily label their milk as free of RBGH. That's not because the law requires it. It's because consumers who found out started demanding it. The market did what the regulator wouldn't. Pork brings us to a chemical most Americans have never heard of and cannot avoid. Ractopamine is a feed additive given to pigs, cattle, and turkeys in the final weeks before slaughter. It converts feed into lean muscle instead of fat, which means more sellable meat per animal. The European Union banned it. So did China. So did Russia. So did Taiwan. In total, well over 100 countries prohibit or restrict it. The EU maintains a zero-tolerance policy for ractopamine residues in imported meat, which means American pork producers who want to sell into Europe have to run entirely separate, certified ractopamine-free supply chains. In the United States, it's fully approved. The FDA permits residues of up to 50 parts per billion in pork and 30 parts per billion in beef, which are higher than the international standards set by the Codex Alimentarius. And that Codex standard itself only passed by a vote of 69 to 67, with 7 abstentions. That's how contested this is at the global level. Here's the part that should bother you regardless of where you land on the science. Ractopamine is not listed on meat labels in the United States. There is no way for an American shopper to know whether the pork chop they're buying came from an animal treated with it, unless the brand specifically markets itself as ractopamine-free. Over 100 countries decided their citizens shouldn't eat it. America decided its citizens don't need to be told. Now let's talk about the chemicals in the packaged food. Titanium dioxide is a whitening agent used in candies, pastries, sauces, coffee creamers, and processed baked goods to make them look brighter and more appealing. In 2021, the European Food Safety Authority concluded that titanium dioxide could no longer be considered safe as a food additive, citing concerns about genotoxicity, meaning potential DNA damage. The European Commission removed its authorization for food use in 2022. It is still legal in American food today. Potassium bromate is used to strengthen dough and improve rise in breads, buns, and pizza crusts. The International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies it as possibly carcinogenic to humans. It is banned in the European Union, the United Kingdom, Canada, Brazil, China, and elsewhere. It is still legal in American food today. BHA and BHT are preservatives used to extend shelf life in cereals, crackers, chips, and processed snacks. BHT is banned for food use in the EU over concerns about endocrine disruption. BHA has been described by the U.S. National Toxicology Program as reasonably anticipated to be a human carcinogen. In February 2026, the FDA ordered a new safety review of BHA. In August 2025, it launched an assessment of BHT. Both are still legal in American food today, decades after other countries acted. Like this video if it's telling you something you weren't told. Share it with someone who has kids eating this stuff, and leave a comment with the one American food you'd bet is banned somewhere. Now let me get to the actual reason all of this happens, because the chemicals are the symptom, not the disease. The difference between American and European food isn't that European regulators are smarter. It's that the two systems ask opposite questions. The European Union operates on what's called the precautionary principle. If scientific evidence raises reasonable uncertainty about whether an ingredient is safe, that ingredient is restricted until safety is affirmatively demonstrated. The burden falls on the manufacturer to prove the thing is fine before it goes in the food. The United States operates in reverse. An ingredient is generally permitted unless and until the FDA determines it is unsafe. The burden falls on the regulator to prove harm after the thing is already on shelves and already in millions of bodies. And there's a specific mechanism that makes this much worse than it sounds. It's called GRAS, which stands for generally recognized as safe. Under the GRAS pathway, a manufacturer can determine on its own that an ingredient is safe for its intended use. The FDA strongly encourages companies to submit a notice through the GRAS notification program. But that notice is not mandatory. Read that again. A company can introduce a chemical into the American food supply based on its own internal safety determination, and it is not legally required to tell the FDA it did so. The regulator can be entirely unaware the ingredient exists. In March 2025, the Department of Health and Human Services directed the FDA to explore rulemaking to eliminate the self-affirmed GRAS pathway. That's an admission that the loophole is real and that it has been operating for decades. Here's the part that closes the argument, and it's the part American food companies would rather not discuss. In 2007, a study published in The Lancet by researchers at the University of Southampton found that a mixture of 6 artificial food dyes increased hyperactivity in children. The European Union's response was to require any food containing those dyes to carry a warning label stating that it may have an adverse effect on activity and attention in children. The EU didn't ban the dyes outright. It just made companies admit what was in the box. Faced with that warning label, major food manufacturers did something revealing. They reformulated. They replaced the synthetic dyes in their European products with natural alternatives like beet juice, paprika extract, and turmeric. The products still looked appealing, the supply chain still worked, the profits still came. And then they kept the synthetic petroleum-based dyes in the American versions of the exact same products. That is the entire argument in one fact. The safer version exists. The companies already make it. They already ship it. They already sell it profitably to hundreds of millions of people. They just don't send it to America because America is the one market that doesn't make them. I want to end honestly because the exaggerated version of the story hurts the real one. A European ban does not automatically mean an ingredient is dangerous. EU restrictions reflect precautionary judgments, not always settled scientific consensus. Some of these bans are partly protectionist, shielding European farmers from American competition. The chlorinated chicken ban is about farming standards, not poison in the meat. And America has recently started moving. Brominated vegetable oil was banned in the US in 2024. Red dye number 3 was banned in January 2025. The FDA announced a phased removal of petroleum-based synthetic dyes in 2025. Several states have passed their own bans ahead of the federal government. So this is not a story about American food being uniquely poisonous. It's a story about timing and about who the system is built to protect. Europe restricted brominated vegetable oil decades before America did. Europe pulled titanium dioxide in 2022, and America still hasn't. Europe banned hormone beef in 1989, and America is still arguing about it at the WTO in 2026. Every one of these fights follows the same pattern. The rest of the developed world acts on suspicion. America waits for proof. And while America waits, hundreds of millions of people eat the thing. The question isn't whether any single additive will hurt you. The question is why an American family should be the control group in an experiment that other countries decided not to run. Why the same corporation makes a cleaner product for a child in Manchester than for a child in Milwaukee. And why the only reason for that difference is that one country's government asked and the other one didn't. The rest of the world isn't smarter than America. It just decided that the burden of proof belongs to the company, not the customer. That's the whole difference. And it's on the label of every product they won't let across their border. Thank you for watching. If this made you look at your own cupboard differently, that's not paranoia. That's just information you should have had already. If you want more content that asks the questions nobody's paying anyone to ask, subscribe to this channel, hit the bell, and share this with someone who's still feeding their family on the assumption that if it's on the shelf, somebody checked. We'll see you in the next one. Reason over rituals. Always.